Wow! It's 2 minutes to late night!
What's up, Hellbent for Fruit Leathers? Welcome to Pod Minutes to Cast Night, the 2 minutes to late night podcast. It's not really like the show. It's a podcast where we listen to albums that are considered to be terrible, and we try to find some good things about them. You're here with the 2 minutes to late night writers room.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Hammond, and I'm having a no good, very bad day.
Oh, no! That was a cute way to do that.
Hi, I'm Lucy Steiner, and I'm fucking around with carb cycling right now.
What is that?
Oh, sorry. It's a way of like doing ketosis, but you still get to eat bread on Tuesdays.
But you're drinking a beer right now.
Yeah, I know. That was really a joke about 2 weeks ago.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Drew Kaufman, and I just remembered that I had my first panic attack in 2002 while playing Luigi's Mansion.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Is anybody else?
Big wuss.
I had my first panic attack after I did stand up for the first time because I just didn't want to talk to the other comedians. They were weird.
They always are.
They were so. It was in NoHo, and just a lot of the sets were really inappropriate, sometimes racist, and I didn't want to hang out and schmooze. So I had a panic attack over it.
I'm sure not schmoozing with those comics cost you nothing.
Yeah. I'm fine today from it. I'm going to be fine. Yeah. And today, Katie is off playing a computer at a bowling alley. So, right? Is that...
Yeah, it's not even it sounds like it's a joke. It's not a joke. She is off playing a computer at a bowling alley right now.
It's also a concert somehow. But filling in, we have my new roommate and also new editorial producer of Kerrang magazine, Kat Jones.
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, of course.
Or podcast, whatever the fuck this is. I don't know.
It's both.
It's both.
In my living room. I don't know.
A podcast is a show, right?
A podcast is a show, and a show is a podcast. You know what? Sometimes, if you record it and put it out, and people passively listen to it and remember small parts of it, it's a podcast.
Yeah, when you film a podcast, it's like it's somehow still a podcast. I think if you're just having a discussion in a room. Mm-hmm. Right? It's a podcast.
It's like the only thing more masturbatory than a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all jerking off with our voices right now. Mm-hmm. There's a circle jerk of nonsense.
Instead of a circle jerk of nonsense while you're also being like, but look how good I look, internet.
Yeah, you were... It's like... Everybody looks better than they should.
The car episode, my favorite part of that was people commenting like, "Look at how white everyone's teeth are," and I'm like, "Thank you."
Yeah, I'm good at color correction.
Thank you,
Because we all look like Simpsons characters.
Before we get into this week's album, did anybody listen to anything they liked this week?
Well, I don't remember where we were talking about Fleetwood Mac. Oh, we were on the shoot. We were at a shoot for the show, and we started talking about Fleetwood Mac. And this isn't a new thing that I listened to, but I just had like a lovely journey of rediscovery of Fleetwood Mac this week.
Yeah.
And goddamn, they are so good.
Yeah. Which album?
So I happen to really like Tusk a lot.
Yeah.
So I've just been listening to Tusk a ton this week.
So good.
It's so good.
That was a genuine answer, Jay. This is the only time he's answered that question. Like, usually it's just like, I watched like, I listened to the music in a weird playthrough video game of a pig. It's a pig in an airplane.
It's an experimentary indie game where you pilot a pig in an airplane and you do 9/11, but also everyone's pigs.
There's a musical about 9/11 at the end of it. Lucy, did you listen to anything that you enjoyed this week? Or
I
just
listened
nightmares?
I listened to Hollywood Nights on repeat, and I have no regrets.
Dude, that's a good one.
It's so good.
Hell yeah.
Poet laureate of the Midwest. Seeger.
Hell yeah. Drew?
Honestly, all I've been doing is watching Scooby-Doo, which is still great.
Hell yeah.
Old Scooby-Doo?
No, they just put out a new Scooby-Doo last year called Be Cool Scooby-Doo, and it's really funny. It's on Boomerang, which I have now.
You have television now?
No, it's an app. I bought a smart TV, so I just like press a couple of buttons and I don't have to move ever. It's great.
Oh, shit.
He moves to LA and gets all bougie.
Yeah, look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Folks, that reminds me, this week's episode is sponsored by Smart TVs. Do you ever wish your TV was less dumb? Try Smart TV.
I have a smart TV, and it's fucking dumb. Our TV is dumb as hell. It's got all the apps, but it half the time doesn't want to do any of the things.
That might have to do with the fact that your dog ate our remote control.
Well, we have a new one.
I don't know. It's all bent. It doesn't point at the TV properly.
No, that's just what the shape of it is.
It could
has-
just be
it
that
has
the TV's
teeth
still
marks on
holding
it,
it
my
against
friend.
you.
Welcome to
He's legitimately going to find it.
Welcome to 5 Minutes to Cast Night, the house meeting episode.
I must. You know what?
I got a new one.
I stand corrected. Was
You're
there-
thinking of the old remote that is now.
He
It's
replaced
got.
it
You'll
and
never
just
see.
snuck it in there and didn't even tell me.
I thought it would help. It
Sneaky
didn't help.
motherfucker.
So your dog ate
A remote?
a piece of electrical equipment.
Yeah, on her
Eating
birthday
was
last
probably
year.
What they do.
A nice treat for her.
an exaggeration.
Yeah, I sang
More
a whole
just
song
like,
about
she
it.
chomped on it real hard.
Kat, did you listen to anything in particular other than the album of the week? Did you listen to anything like new or something that you just were like, oh man,
Well,
this was great?
You know, so my job means I have to listen to new music that I most of the time love like 24/7. But one thing I listened to this week that totally caught me off guard that someone just randomly told me to listen to and I fell in love with was Cinderella's Night Songs.
That sounds
The
awesome.
hair metal album. I have that on vinyl.
So good. I've been listening to it nonstop. I cannot quit it.
It is so funny. I like that. I like that album too. But it's just really funny that there's like a ballad where someone is literally screaming the whole time.
Yeah.
Is that
That's Tom's voice from Cinderella. Ah! And there's a nice piano, and he's just like, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And the rest, it's just violins and a piano behind him. He's just like, ooh.
It's the only like heartbroken love song that actually sounds like what that feels like.
I know.
Is that just an album name, or is it the band Cinderella?
The band is Cinderella.
The band is Cinderella.
And they're a bunch of dudes,
Yeah,
which
nice.
is awesome.
Hell yeah.
It's what you want from a band, you know?
Yeah,
It's 2019.
that's right. They're way ahead of their time.
What's up? We're a band, and we're called Woman. What's going on?
That was my favorite.
Ready
Like,
to kick ass.
I'm a princess.
that was like a 2016 trend, right? Where everyone was called like hard girls, white chicks.
Yeah.
And it's just all the same set of fest dudes with beards and flannel.
It's just dudes with fuzz pedals.
What's up, we're
Even
hot
the-
chicks?
Yeah. What's up? We're hot. It was not.
We're called the Lady Gals.
Wait. Before I know that Fleetwood Mac was 20 minutes ago, but if you'll humor me,
Yeah.
the hardest I've ever laughed at my life was at a Fleetwood Mac concert. If you'll allow me to tell that story.
Yeah. Do it. I love this story.
Okay, so I went to see Fleetwood Mac 4 years ago with our friend Sam, who does the Weather Danzigs, and so we got tickets to the most nosebleed seats you could have in Madison Square Garden. I literally had my back against the wall, as far as you can get from the stage, and so like we were like having fun, but we were kind of out of it because you're so far from Fleetwood Mac that it was actually easier to just look at the TV in the opposite direction where they're projecting the show. And so they play Never Coming Back Again, and they go completely acoustic. So it's just Lindsey Buckingham on stage, and he's playing Never Coming Back Again, which is like a really like soft, beautiful song, right? And so he's playing acoustic guitar, and every single person in Madison Square Garden is silent. The only thing you can hear is Lindsey Buckingham and his acoustic guitar, right? And so the whole show, they had this like big projection screen behind them, and they were projecting like early 2000s screensaver clip art shit. And so for some reason during this song, behind him, all there is just a giant 30-foot seashell. And Sam, in the middle of the song, he turns to me and whispers in my ear, when I hold the seashell to my ear, I can hear my dad come. And I just scream laugh so loud. And the only people making any noise are me and Lindsey Buckingham. I swear to God, this is the truth. Every single person in Madison Square Garden turns around to look at me. And I don't know what to do, so I'm just laughing so hard that Sam is covering my mouth. Is the hardest I've ever laughed in my life.
You know what the best part of that story is that's the last time Lindsey Buckingham will ever play that song in Madison Square Garden.
It's true.
He's not in the band anymore. So literally it's like the future of him in that band was laughing at him while he was alone and vulnerable.
Drew got him fired.
Drew got him fired.
Yeah.
God damn it, Drew.
He threw a fit about that performance afterwards, and they were like, "You gotta calm down, Liz. All right, you're out of the band."
They're like, we don't know what you did, but you made some guy scream laugh, and we can't have that in our somber moments.
This week, I listened to. I finally listened to Firepower by Judas Priest. I had been
So
avoiding
good.
that album because I was like, they're too old. The album cover looks like a Banjo-Kazooie bad guy. I can't. I won't be able to enjoy it. It's they're great. It's great. They wrote a great album. It's I was shocked. I was like, I never thought I would like an album from Judas Priest, especially now, especially post like Painkiller. I just didn't see it coming, and it was great.
It's truly like hit after hit after hit. On
Yeah,
that record.
It starts. They did the right thing where the record starts off with Rob like proving that he can still do the It's just like a Doppler effect of his like voice. I'm like, you are 70 years old,
Yeah.
and you can do that still.
I saw them on that tour, and he even did Painkiller, and everyone was like, "What the fuck? How do you do that still? Like, how do you have the lung capacity?"
I've seen him do it. It's still because when they play the song, he has to just like suck. He has to like angle his diaphragm in the right way. He does the whole song like this, like faster than a bullet. He has to squeak it out of his mouth, and he doesn't move the entire song, but he still does it, and it's amazing.
I wish that all of you could have seen the movements that Jordan just did when he was reenacting that.
It looked like, I don't know, like a brontosaurus like excited about eating a pretzel.
Jordan looked like Christian Bale in The Machinist.
Tree stars, man. Come on.
It's so fun to picture.
I know.
The Brontosaurus at the mall.
I know, right?
He's walking at the mall. He's got
At
like, a couple
Wetzel's.
bags in his mouth, and then he like drops him. He's like, "Ooh, an Auntie Anne."
He went to Wetzel's. But anyway, speaking of Judas Priest, this week we listened to Turbo by Judas Priest at the request of Kat, our guest. Kat, do you want to, before we get into it, Lucy, how do you think this album happened?
I mean, it's like if Freddie Mercury decided to become a guy I had to block on Facebook. And then I was like, later on, after it kind of died down and he stopped being such a problem, I like went back and I was like, what actually happened here after I blocked? And then I just read the whole list of insane messages, and that's the album.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's the lyrics list. But I was like totally shocked by this album because I remember hearing, I never listened, this is the first Judas Priest album I've listened to. And I remember hearing the stories about like them being in a lawsuit about like the suicides or whatever. And then like, I remember like hearing about that. Remember that?
No.
No. Do you remember
It was
this?
Ozzy.
I think that's a different band.
Is it Judas Priest?
Wasn't it
What
Ozzy
is-
Osbourne with Suicide Solution? That kid killed himself and they blamed Ozzy on it?
I thought there were like two
Yeah.
kids. They were like two teens who
That was
killed
Ozzy. That was Ozzy Osbourne.
That was
It was
Ozzy.
Ozzy.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'd like to
Yeah.
fact check
If
You can
that.
get 'em
anyone's
confused,
sure
they're
about
both,
Ozzy Osbourne, it's Drew Kaufman.
Yeah. Hello, resident Ozzy Osbourne expert and neighborhood bald guy, Drew Kaufman here.
But
But I remember hearing that they were like a bad band,
like bad influence or
a bad
just-
influence band.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like,
Because they're a
Oh.
very good band.
Speaking
And-
of bad
Lucy doesn't
influence
know.
bands,
yeah.
I don't know if you saw this, that the band that you were talking about last week, they are actually Nazis.
Yeah, they are 100% Nazis.
Lucy, no!
They're called like what,
Something SS.
like they're
One of
called
They
like
weren't that great
Stormbreaker
anyway.
Ah, well, yes.
Guys.
Somebody in the YouTube comments told us that they have like some insane history of being Nazis. So
Yeah.
So
they're this regular
impressionable listeners, they weren't that great anyway. Don't listen to that.
Yeah. Well, you're.
They're probably derivative. I don't know, but it seems like everything is
No, you
nowadays.
wouldn't-
You and Ray should talk to your friend and be like, listen.
The
those
irony
S's
has gone too far.
Yeah. It's just what it is now.
But it's interesting that I mixed up Judas Priest with Ozzy on this one because last episode I also realized that the entire time I was mixing up David Lee Roth with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
No,
This
no,
whole
'cause,
time-
David Lee Roth isn't allergic to helicopters.
I was like, no, David Lee Roth had a great solo career. It was so rich and like, and I was talking to
so
a friend
funny.
later, and he was like, "What the California Girls cover?"
Wait, who'd you say?
I was talking to my friend later about
yeah.
it, like, "Oh, he had a great solo career, right?" He was like, "What the California Girls cover?"
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. But
Yeah.
Kat, I want to ask you why this album is not considered the worst Judas Priest album. It's, the one after this, Ram It Down, is apparently really is apparently a lot of people's least favorites. A lot of people don't like the album that they put out without Rob Halford. Mm-hmm. So why did you choose this one? I'm just curious. What's your history with this album?
I think this one historically is the most argued over.
Yeah, okay.
And so it may not be the worst. I certainly don't think it's the worst, but there's like this giant rift in Judas Priest fans. Some people think it's the worst thing ever. They just want to pretend like that album didn't exist at all. Mm-hmm. And some people are like, fuck it. It's really fun to sing along to. It's a great record. And one time I got into a funny, like, silly argument with my friend about it at a bar, and I posted something about it on Facebook, like, oh, haha, I love it that I can have funny arguments with my friends about Judas Priest and not worse things. And the next morning I woke up and looked at Facebook, and there was like a fucking flame war going on my Facebook where people were like yelling at me for even considering that record is good, including one of my very best friends in the world who is like the biggest Judas Priest fan I know, who has a Rock-a-Rolla tattoo on her arm.
Oh, boy.
And she is like 48.
The
and
angel thing or just the little bottle cap?
The bottle
Or the,
cap. And it actually says Rock-a-Rolla on her arm.
Yeah.
or is it the Guy Fieri movie?
So
Guy Ritchie.
Gary, fuck you.
Guy Ritchie.
The guy. I just got what was happening.
you know what? The funny thing is, I had no idea what you're talking about, so I was just like, sure, yeah, whatever.
I was
Moving
like-
on.
I was
yeah,
like,
Guy
is there
Fieri
a
made a
diners,
movie.
drive-ins,
I
and-
wouldn't know.
Oi, we feed him to the pigs. The pigs are in Flavortown.
Oh, it needs a bit more donkey sauce in it. Cockney Guy Fieri is all I want in the entire world. All right.
So anyway,
Yeah.
basically, this friend is like close to 50. She's been like a metal DJ on the radio forever. She used to write for Rolling Stone.
Mm-hmm.
She knows her shit. And she said to me, that album was heartbreaking when it came out. you don't know because you weren't there. And I was like, this friend and I have literally never had a fight about anything.
Yeah.
We've never even had a major disagreement. We have gone on long road trips together. We have never once had any sort of disagreement whatsoever. And then suddenly, like, the most sincerely, like, disappointed thing she's ever said to me was that I liked Turbo. And then she was like upset about it. And so I was genuinely curious. I was like, what is it that I'm missing? And so apparently there's like this whole history of people like hating that record. And so I thought it would be a funny one for us to talk about because I think it's fabulous. But
here's the thing. I loved it. I listened to it. I love a lot of Judas Priest. I'm also weirdly recent-ish to Judas Priest. Like, I didn't listen to a lot of them in high school. Mm-hmm. I got into them in like college. Because one time at karaoke, I got drunk and sang Breaking the Law, but I did it backwards. I did it as Following Rules, and I changed every lyric to being like a positive, like, there I was completely sober, had a job, it was great. And then it just went on from there, and I just listened to all of the, to like what people consider to be the best stuff. Can
I just a random stray memory that came up. Breaking the Law is now forever implanted in my mind as Steven Seagal, because I was at some bar in Philadelphia about like 5 years ago and I saw a band do like the most impeccable cover of it, but they just sang the chorus as Steven Seagal, Steven Seagal.
Oh my God.
I just can't hear it any other way now.
Why the fuck not? But I listened to this. I didn't listen to this record when I was first getting into Judas Priest because people told me it wasn't good. Mm-hmm. Which was like a shame because I liked that there were just like these. Just visually, I liked that there were these 3 Judas Priest albums that were all painted by a guy who, like, I don't know, really likes just candy or something, like little candy monsters. Mm-hmm. I forget the actual artist, but it's beautiful, but every one of those covers just looks like a cool little candy creature.
I'm so glad that you also thought it looked like candy, because I was worried that I had like some problem where I want to eat album art, and then you also wanted to eat this album art.
It's like a villain in Candyland.
It really is. But I listened to this record today, front to back. I fucking loved it. I listened to Locked In, I think maybe 4 times.
Yeah, you even texted me about it today. You're like, holy shit.
I was like, this is a fucking jam. Like, I listened to Turbo and I was like, I was inspired. I was like, I want to make a Speed Racer movie, but it's gay. I just
you
want to
absolutely should make that movie.
I want to make an 80s style Speed Racer movie, but like Racer X and Speed Racer just wanna fuck, and that's the movie.
Oh, wait! Before you get into that, so Lucy, do you know the whole thing about how basically everybody in like the 70s and the 80s who were like outside of metal thought that Judas Priest was a bad band because he would ride on the stage on his motorcycle and he'd wear all leather and chains and he looked like a bad dude, and then it ends up he was a leather daddy and everybody was just secretly gay.
Yeah,
like not everybody in the band. I mean, everybody who listens to Judas Priest is secretly gay.
That's not everyone who listens to the band. He tricked his entire audience into wearing his BDSM gear. It fucking rules.
Like when you go to a stadium and they play Queen, you're gay. That's just what happens.
That might be true. Like, I was listening to this record and I was like, I'm really bummed I can't be gay and have really aggressive sex to this album. It seems like it would be really fun. It just seems like I mean,
you still can have really aggressive sex to this album.
I know, but I want it to specifically be gay. Like, Locked In is like Locked In is just a hair metal song, but instead of like him using clever innuendo to describe, like, normally it'd be a guy like describing like, you know,
driving
boobs or driving a car, but he's so specifically talking about a dick and describing it like a key that unlocks your heart. I'm like, fuck?
That's all I wanted to do listening to the song was get railed by a dude. That's all I wanted.
So awesome, but like not in like a ironic like
No.
Family Guy way. Like no, this album made me wish that I was like a little gay and could have some gay sex that I would enjoy to this album.
Well,
But like
I think-
specifically in the 80s.
I don't know how. So I mean, I don't really know the timeline of when people knew that Rob Halford was gay. But I think that that's why people didn't like this album is because it's a lot less about like breaking the law or driving a car, and it's all about like I am in love, and this album is like it's gay as heck and it's awesome.
I think he came out publicly after this record because it was after he.
Because this is the record where everybody was just like, so Rob Halford's gay, right?
No, he came out. He came out on accident. He was doing an interview for MTV, and they asked him some question, and he just responded like, "Oh, well, you know, as a gay man in metal," and then he realized what he was saying, and according to the lore. The producer who was standing behind him was so shocked to hear that answer that he dropped his clipboard on the ground. Like everyone was like, "Did Rob Halford just come out on our show right now? Holy shit!"
Well, I've watched this interview, and he does just say like, as a gay man in metal, I don't think Rob was actually shocked about it because the follow-up question to it is like, there's like a follow-up, and it's like, wait, you're gay? And he goes like, oh yeah, I thought everybody already kind of knew that.
Yeah.
The follow-up question was, gay?
They also they deleted the part.
The thing is, it was.
They
it was
also
one of
cut
those
out the
things-
part where J. Jonah Jameson ran in and said, "Halford, get in here."
Get me picked.
It was one of those things where like everybody kind of knew, and it was kind of implied. And if you loved Judas Priest, you loved him anyway. It didn't really matter. But like the world at large didn't know, and so people outside of metal weren't like, "There's a gay icon in metal." Like it wasn't
It's a
widely ubiquitous in like pop culture. And so after that moment, it was like he could freely talk about it, and he was able to become like the gay activist and icon that he is now.
I think that's what drew me kind of to the band is literally that interview where he's just like, well, I thought everybody kind of knew. I was like, that's the fucking coolest shit I've ever heard. Like, or like literally that's just what made the band feel really special. But I agree with Drew. I think that it's just because I think. What do you think? Do you think that it's like a synthier album?
Well,
or do you think that it's
Turbo was the first Judas Priest record to employ the use of synthesizers
Right.
at all.
Right.
So yes, it's certainly a synthier album, just purely based on that.
Oh, I
But-
meant like,
also
do you think that
1988,
people don't
so,
like
like,
it
every-
because of
because of
synth,
that?
or because it's
possible,
or
I
because
think
it's kind of gay?
I truly don't think it has anything to do with the gay factor, because I think most people just didn't know. They just
Right.
They still, and according to my friend, one of the reasons why she was so disappointed in that record was that every other hair metal band at the time was like using women's bodies to sell their band, and Judas Priest was the only one that wasn't doing that. And then when Turbo came out, they started to. Like suddenly there were women, like scantily clad and naked women, like in their videos. And I can't remember the last time that I watched a video from Turbo, so I can't refer to something right now about that. But she said it disappointed her because she thought that they were kind of like succumbing to the pop culture norms at the time.
Oh.
And so,
Yeah.
which is really interesting because you're saying it's like the gayest record, but you're saying that with the knowledge that
Yes.
you already know he's gay, so you can put yourself in those shoes when you listen to it.
Yeah.
As opposed to people at the time were just like, this is a fun heavy metal record, and then it was also like this bubblegum pop record that didn't shy away from just being that. Like Judas Priest has always been a pop band, but
Yeah.
they were a pop band that was a heavy metal band also. And then on Turbo, they kind of like took the curtain down and they're like, no, actually we can write like arena pop songs.
Well, I think they've always had like Living After Midnight is the closest thing that they've written like thematically and to this album, I think.
Yeah.
Like that's like we're going out and party. That's a classic hair
Da,
metal.
na, da, 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 na.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just easily accessible and it's like fun party song, but Rockarola is a pop song.
Yeah.
You know, like it's an earworm that's going to get stuck in your head. It's got a catchy chorus. It's just because it's a heavy metal song doesn't mean it can't also be a pop
I agree.
song.
Yeah, well, what do you think, Jeremy? Well, like, are you a Judas Priest guy?
No, and
Yeah,
Fair.
Of course.
Of course he's not.
well, it's not
hate
that I'm
fun.
like actively not a fan of them. I don't like actively dislike Judas Priest. I just don't know them that well.
Right,
And I think
okay.
we've had this conversation before about how Judas Priest is just something that's kind of like passed me right by. Mm-hmm. And like I know a few of the songs. I know Rob Halford as sort of like a pop icon type of character. Like the thing that I know Rob Halford best for, and this is like a deeply embarrassing thing to admit, is a cameo that he made in a Sum 41 live performance once.
We all watched that when we were
Yeah.
in high school.
Yeah, it was like they played on like MTV something or another, and like they had Tommy Lee come out drumming with them, and then Rob Halford came out and they did Another Thing Comin'. And like that's the thing that
Awesome.
I like knew him best for a very long time.
That's so weird. that they
Imagine
played that
how
song.
many kids got into Judas Priest because of that.
Which is
Oh,
cool.
man. There's,
I think
like,
that's badass.
Yeah.
There's genuinely something to be said for the fact that Sum 41 introduced a lot of kids to a certain type of metal.
Yeah. Well, then
I was honestly super into Sum 41 when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like they might have been a dumb pop punk band, but if you watched like the videos and the special features and shit, they always had like weird gore metal references and
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, they have their like secret song where they're like,
Pain
where
for
they
pleasure.
Yeah,
Pain for pleasure,
that's
where they
right.
talk about Made It in, or even in the biggest song, Made It in Priest.
Yeah, Made in Priest are referencing their biggest song, but then they had the secret track on that album was Pain for Pleasure, which was
Yeah.
just a
And they actually
straight
dressed up as like
yeah.
a
Yeah.
metal band in the
Yeah.
video for it.
I remember that. Judas Priest is they're the band. I'm curious if you'd actually enjoy them. Like other than this record, I think that I'm curious if they would work for Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they would because I like Painkiller.
Painkiller, yes.
Painkiller fucking slaps. I like that song. Like
The
I
whole
like
album
the
is
big
just
songs.
that.
It's just kind of like it's a type of metal, and it's like this is something that I feel like we come back to a lot. Is like production value of a certain type, like older productions. Just like I find it really hard to get past, and it's a shame because there's a lot of older music that's probably really good.
Well, Jeremy, I think you'll like it because there's two Judas Priests. There's like when they were inventing metal, and that's just classic rock, you know. And then there's Rob Halford leads, and they come back, and then it's just like, oh, we're gonna do the thing that everybody that we influence is doing, and we're gonna do it even better. And that's why Painkiller's so amazing. There's like 20 years of experience under that song.
Well,
Wait, is Painkiller a later song?
No, Painkiller. Painkiller is not when Rob Halford comes back.
No, Painkiller was like album 3.
It's
Painkiller's
after
still an early song.
Painkiller
Yeah.
is the 1990s. It's 1990. It's right.
Yeah.
They do this album. They do Ram It Down. People are like, "What happened to this band?" And they go like, "Oh, do you want us to come and kick some fucking ass?" And then they just come. They come back with Painkiller. Funny story about Painkiller. The first time I heard it, I didn't think it was Rob Halford. I had heard about Tim Ripper Owens, the guy who replaced him. I had heard that also that story is the inspiration for the movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg.
I didn't know that. That's
Yes.
fascinating.
I have not seen that. I've seen that movie on TV one time, so I knew the movie, and then I had heard the stories of like Tim being a part of this band. The first like month I was into Painkiller, I didn't think it was Rob. I thought it was Tim the whole time because it sounds so different. He has never done an entire, like, Rob has never done an entire album where he's just like, faster than a bullet. Like, fucking, the whole album is that. He completely departs, and it like, that album is just like, we're gonna fucking destroy you. It was the first, I think it's the only time a band has, like, faced criticism and then come back and, like, given people just the the exact opposite of what they were making and kind of everything that they were asking for, but even more so than they wanted. Like Painkiller is a really incredible. It's amazing that those are the same bands. Mm-hmm. Because I think Turbo makes sense in the trilogy of the albums it's a part of. Like, I think I like Screaming for Vengeance. I don't know about you.
Me too.
But I think the guitars sound like fucking garbage. I hate, as a guitarist, I can almost not listen to that.
Really?
album. I think the riffs are great, and I have to like really get past the like, what the fuck are you doing?
You're talking about like purely tone that you don't like?
The tone is ridiculous. The distortion is like, it sounds like they are turning on 4 different pedals and like they're like, I guess this sounds okay, and it just is gross. It sounds fucking gross. It's too much effects. It's too much shit. I now see, hearing this album, like, oh, this is what you wanted your guitars to sound like when you wrote Screaming for Vengeance. Do you know what I'm talking about, Drew? Do you know that album?
Sorry, my cat jumped in my lap and I'm playing with her.
Sorry, Drew is in love with his pet, as he should be. Do you know that album at all? It's like,
No,
do you know?
I don't know anything.
Okay.
Is the thing. I don't have even like a little bit of a basis for a conversation about Judas Priest in like a broader scale.
Okay.
Like this is the first Judas Priest album I've ever listened to.
What did you think as the first like introduction? Was it jarring?
I thought it was really boring, actually.
Okay.
I was kind of really bored by it. I went through it and I just kind of kept thinking about like VH1 original production movies. You remember like when there was that like brief time period where VH1 did like little movies about like a murder in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And like it would be like about like a hair metal scene in like Madison, Wisconsin, and like somebody gets murdered, but which singer of which band did it? You know, it sounded like the score of that. And like I'm sure that there's great Judas Priest, because like this isn't like, if we were putting this in the bracket that we did for like the 2018, like this isn't going far in the bracket. I thought it was fine. It was good enough.
Yeah.
But like it just, I don't know. It didn't appeal to me.
It's not, I think, to be fair, I think that boring is a fair criticism of it if you're looking for Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Because
think...
if the only thing I know of Judas Priest basically is, you know, Painkiller and what's the other? Yeah, Another Thing Coming.
That's on Screaming for Vengeance. The
album that I was talking about that
But
has
it's like,
the
if those are the
guitar,
only 2 Judas Priest songs you really know, like this is not good.
Well,
Agreed.
No, I don't know.
I mean, you just have to look at it differently. You just
Yeah,
be like,
yeah, totally.
I feel like listening to a fun pop record that I can put on in the background and just like, it's just like Doritos. You just like eat it. It's not good for you, but it's delicious.
Yeah.
I think it has so much in common with You Got Another Thing Coming. It's because you Got Another Thing Coming is 100% like, I think the two that don't have anything in common are You Got Another Thing Coming and Painkiller.
Oh,
Painkiller is a
drastically different songs. But what I
more
mean
in common
is like
with Slayer.
those 2 songs are just like iconic, like wonderful pieces of music. And like if those are the only 2 things you knew about this band, and then this is the next thing you listen to, you're like, well, this sure doesn't stack up to 2 wildly iconic songs.
Kinda. I don't know.
It's an unfair standard to hold them to, but it's the only standard I have because it's literally all I know.
Right.
You need to listen to Victim of Changes. Just sit down and just listen to it. And there's this part where he hits this falsetto that just like the first time I ever truly fell in love with that song, I like got so excited when I heard that part that I knocked a bunch of shit over in my room.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
He is considered. He's probably the best. When you realize like all the different things he can do with his voice, he's probably the best metal vocalist out there, just because of the sheer range that he has, and his actual stage presence is fucking insane.
For sure. Well, it's like it's hard though, right? Because it's like metal in particular as a genre has such a wildly varying degree of what you'd even consider like vocalization. You know what I mean? Like comparing like Rob Halford to like, I mean, even somebody as similar as like James Hetfield is already as crazy as like comparing him to like fucking the singer of like Pig Destroyer or something like that. And those are all considered parts of metal, you know?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
It's just like it's metal in particular, I feel, is very hard to define like who is the best vocalist of, you know?
Well, Lucy, what did you think? Because you're kind of new to this world of screaming shit.
Well, I have some opinions.
Yeah.
But,
Go for it.
I also.
Oh, by the way, you were right. I just looked it up,
I was just about to do a big reveal, but go ahead.
and pretend I didn't say that.
I want us to mark down this day, January 10th, 2019, as the time that the little lamb girl knew more about metal than the cool metal kids. Because I'm going to read you a Rolling Stone article headline.
Okay.
Judas Priest subliminal message trial, :
Oh my God.
Rob Halford looks back
Whoa.
to the time that he killed 2 teens with his music.
Okay, can you tell me more about
Yeah, I'm
this?
fascinated now. I did not know this.
I remembered the outline of it. What I didn't remember was exactly how dumb the claim was. Because it wasn't even based on their lyrics. It was based on what this complainant thought that was like subliminal messaging. Like apparently they thought that like there was some subliminal message of like let's be dead in there, but there wasn't. And a judge was like, these clearly aren't lyrics in the song, so they're not responsible.
Yeah. Wait. You know why we all didn't know that? Is because that was every band we've listened to has been in trouble. Like I remember like Marilyn Manson got blamed for Columbine. That's like the most famous one, right?
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, Ozzy Osbourne every year has a how dare you.
Well,
Just-
and
and,
Tipper
like-
Gore, like for a while, was going on.
Can't anybody just kill themselves because they're sad?
No, they can't.
Apparently not in the 90s.
No.
Fucking Kurt Cobain couldn't even do
The
it.
first place because
like-
they're sad.
There was a whole panic about like the Used and My Chemical Romance in the 2000s too, about like, is emo just a fun trend for teens, or is it making teens try to kill themselves?
Is depression a disease or is it chords?
Or is it because of Gerard Way?
I mean, we were all wrong. Apparently, emo is a trend for people who are 30 still.
We asked 10 people who died of overdoses what musician they like the best.
But yeah.
It was a tragedy, but
Yeah.
anyway, that did like it heavily impacted like my view of what this album was going to be, because I expected it to be like Ozzy Osbourne. Like I expected it to be very like devilly,
Yeah.
you know, and like eating bats and all that stuff. And like
Wait a minute. Hold on. Real quick. Lucy, have you ever listened to Ozzy Osbourne?
no, I haven't. I only know about the
I
battering
am
thing.
so excited for you to actually hear Ozzy Osbourne for the first time.
Me too.
Realize
Me too.
what that sounds like.
I don't even want to attempt to describe it right now because I want her
No.
to just
Oh
be
my
like,
god!
This is-
You have
Oh.
the first time she hears the fucking the
Crazy
shaky
Train.
thing in Crazy Train is gonna be so funny.
You know what's weird? I haven't heard Ozzy Osbourne play Crazy Train, but I have heard a 12-year-old Japanese kid play it on the Ellen Show.
Folks, this is the modern globalist world we live in.
This is how distorted like pop culture has
Yeah.
become. You know,
I
it's like,
love this. This is fascinating to me. I don't ever get to talk to non-metal people about metal, and I like
This
it
is-
so much better.
This
Because
is the whole
my favorite.
Our
podcast.
peers
The
are
whole
assholes, and you're like, no, this is how like normal people view this music, and I'm like, wow.
Wait,
Okay.
real quick, Lucy, the Crazy Train. Where do you think it departs from, and where do you think it's going to?
You know what? The most surprising thing about it was that like it was basically the same thing as a peace train.
Like Cat Stevens level.
The weirdest thing was discovering that Ozzy Osbourne and Cat Stevens are the same guy.
We've all known that already.
They both love their sons. You know?
All
both
aboard
changed
the
their
Wednesday train. All right, but Lucy, what do you think of this album?
So that whole like thing, which apparently is just like every metal band, like
Yeah.
influenced my view of it. Because I thought it was going to be like very dark and stuff, and it turns out it's just like a bunch of kids who want to play their music real loud.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's
Sounds like the Back to the Future soundtrack.
yeah, exactly.
It does.
It's like, you know, like everything is just like, you know, flip you, Mom. I want to turn my radio up.
Oh
And
yeah,
We
because
don't
like
need parental guidance.
That was my favorite song on the whole album. I loved it so much.
It's so funny. Well, because it's the year they first introduced the sticker, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they
Fucking
literally
Tipper Gore.
wrote like a fuck you to Tipper Gore is that whole song.
Man, that whole era is wild, right?
Isn't that wild?
It's so crazy, the Tipper Gore shit. Like, watching those old videos of Jello Biafra on, like, Geraldo or something like that, where he's just like, I accuse you of trying to take away my way to make a living.
That's
I'm
as
here
big
with
as
2 Live Crew. What were they called? 2 Live Crew?
I am taking a break for my days of trying to impeach the mayor.
I'm no longer mad at Dianne Feinstein. I'm mad at you, Tipper Gore.
Oh my god. But yeah, okay, so
so that was fun. And then also, I mean, the first song's, you know, it's fun. It's a little creepy, but whatever. I can get over it. It's like just like not creepy enough where I would have been like, yeah, I would have dated the guy. So whatever.
can't.
Would
It's
not have
about
dated
men.
you, though.
I know.
it's
That's
about
the
being
weirdest
gay
thing.
in the 80s.
That's the weirdest thing because it's like I feel like it's the exact like reading the lyrics is like, oh, I'm like reliving every like weird dynamic I've ever had with a dude. But it's about guys.
It's about guys trying to be in love in secret.
Oh, by the way, he didn't come out until 1998. So at this time, he's not openly gay. And
I told you
most
that.
people probably didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, oh, I thought we said
Y'all
88.
didn't listen to me.
Isn't that fucking
No.
sad that it's like I feel like every like you always like imagine people having to live secret lives as being like further in the past, but really like every 20 years we realize like, oh no, that was just 20 years ago. You know? Like
Well-
it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the weirdest thing about the Judas Priest, like, coming out in 1998 is he wasn't really coming out. It was literally, the whole thing is just no one had asked him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't that
Yeah.
insane?
And
Like,
he's just not the type of person to be like, well, I'm gonna, come out. Like, this is gonna be my moment. He just was like, well, of course, I've always been gay. Like, what's the big deal? And I
Yeah.
love that.
It's not the kind of thing you usually talk about
Yeah.
in interviews.
I don't
Yeah.
It's like, I'm
around
wearing
talking
my-
about my sexuality. Like, why would he need to? It's just like,
yeah.
We
People
sell
put.
assless chaps in the merch booth. I don't know why you're
He's
asking
not-
this question.
Yeah. Well, people probably heard that record. Like, your friend who heard the record and thought it was about objectifying women, especially because of the music video. Here's the thing. In the 80s, no band had a say over what the music video is.
Yeah.
So people heard that video. They were like, gay isn't real. It's got to be about women.
Well-
You're women.
I should interject, and I should say that this friend wasn't saying that Judas Priest was objectifying
Right.
women. She was just saying that their marketing tactics were succumbing to the
Oh, yeah.
objectifying things of the time.
Of course.
She is like very much like a queer activist herself, and
Oh,
you know,
yeah. No,
but-
we wouldn't. I'm sorry.
So,
yeah, I'm
do you
not
think,
accusing.
do you think record executives in the 80s were all from like steel mill families that also were like near the beach?
Yeah.
You ever think about that? That like all those videos were just like women in bikinis, like in like spark factories. Like maybe that's just like where they came from, and they were
They're all they're from a New Jersey beach.
yeah. They're from the Jersey Shore, where there's steel mills and also beaches.
So, I mean, not to make this all about sexuality, like, but I'm just curious. Like, did people know at the time, like, this guy's gay, like Freddie Mercury, where it was kind of like we know, like, it's just
No.
yeah, no. Oh, so nobody knew.
I think it all like kind of makes sense. Like literally, the cover of this album is a hand touching a dick.
Yeah.
But it's a female hand.
It is a female
It's
hand,
like-
for sure.
It's like with acrylic nails on and stuff.
Right.
But people
Which
didn't know Freddie Mercury was gay either. Like, it really did not come forward until
after
he
was
had
sick.
AIDS, because people are dumb and just assume that everybody's straight.
Yeah.
That shit's so funny to me. Like,
What?
like people like assuming everything is straight all the time, and then like Rob Halford, like the career of Rob Halford as this like literal leather daddy, like he is out there in full on like what you would identify today as a leather daddy outfit, like out there being metal man, and like people being like, oh cool, metal man, I'm gonna dress like metal man, and then being like, wait a second, I'm dressing like gay man. No,
That's the thing. Is
so funny to me.
That's the thing is no one went, oh no. Everyone still dresses like
Yeah.
that.
It just goes to
I
show.
would say that the average Judas Priest fan was already a pretty wonderful person. Like, Judas Priest is such a positive band.
Yeah.
They don't really sing about evil, negative things at all. And so if you liked them and you already love Rob Halford, I mean, I think most people at the time were just kind of like, oh. Like, either they knew and they're like, yeah, duh. Or they were like, huh. Never thought about that. Moving on with my life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Still
that
love
was
them.
that was one of the things that was like surprising to me, and it was like I feel like there's nothing better than just getting surprised by something creatively, and
Yeah.
so like when something kind of has like a reputation preceding it, and then it's something totally different, it like gives it a leg up for me usually. you
Yeah.
know? And it was just like I was just surprised by how wholesome the whole thing was.
Yeah, they're a very
Yeah.
wholesome band.
Yeah.
Well, no, they have some Satan shit, but it's always
by today's
it's
standards,
positive. Yeah, exactly. It's satanic, but always in a fun way. Like Judas Priest wants to have fun. They want to live after midnight. That's their whole thing. They'll like break the law a little bit. Like breaking the law is really about stealing Kit Kats from a gas station. Like that's what's happening. That's what's going on. But I think I don't know. Did you like the album?
Yeah, I did a lot. And
Yeah.
I thought it was just like it was something. I felt like it was something that I would like if I had heard it a little bit earlier. Like sometimes I think in these terms, it's like what era of my life would I want
Yeah.
to hear this in? And I feel like if I had heard this around like 15, 16 years old, I would have been really into it, and I would have
Yeah.
gotten really into Judas Priest because I'm a sucker for like the kind of like cliche rebellion. You know?
Yeah, totally.
The whole like you're not better than me.
Breaking the law. Breaking the law.
Well, I think just to tie it back to like the other albums we did, we talked about 1984 last week, and that was Van Halen bringing like synth into their band. I think this is a much more seamless transition of synth into the music of Judas Priest. Like I heard this and I never found the synth jarring. I always was like, this is very
Yeah.
appropriate for the songs that they're writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
there's no-
noticed that too. It's like it's interesting that we listened to this right after 1984.
Right? Yeah.
Because like I thought
Good
this was
job,
like,
Kat. Good timing.
Yeah, good choice.
Yeah, I totally knew that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there was no part of me listening to this that was like, the synth doesn't belong here.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't like in 1984 where it feels like the synth is drowning anything out. I just assumed the fact when you said like this is their first, or whoever said this is their first synth focused record.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that because I was like, oh, it just sounds like they have a synth guy in the band.
Right?
I think honestly, to have a fully balanced view of this record, perhaps we should have had like a 50-year-old Judas Priest fan in this room with us who's loved them the whole time to get a true idea of, what it was like to have all these records that were heavy metal and then all of a sudden there's this one. Because I can understand why there would be disappointment there.
This is
but
like 10 years of Judas Priest, and then this happens.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's where the biggest separation is in this rift of people that either love that record or don't, is that, you know, if you were a diehard fan of the old stuff, like as it was happening, and you were so excited for this record to come out, and you like, you know, pre-order it at your local record store, and you go wait for it at midnight, and then you buy it, and then you're like, what the fuck is this? I can totally understand that. But as like a standalone record, and like just loving it for what it is by itself, I think the average person would be like, this is great.
I'm never mad if a band goes poppy or whatever, and this is the version of them going pop. I think this is of all of the bands, like this for me is what I want. If like a band is gonna go into a pop hair metal thing, like this is what I want. They're great at it. The vocals are flying all over the place. The guitar riffs are great. The guitars sound good. I know that there are apparently a lot of people who think the guitars on this record sound like shit. I think it fits totally with what they're doing. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of there's arpeggios. Like they sound like little robot guitars. There's a fucking in Turbo. There's literally a robot singing the chorus behind Rob, and it's fucking great. I love that robot. I want to hang out with that robot. Drew has a tattoo of that robot.
I don't yet, but I want one.
Yeah.
I wish I liked Judas Priest enough to get a fucking Judas Priest sleeve.
Yeah,
that would
a fucking
rule.
gay robot. That'd be such a cool tattoo.
Yeah.
It would. Maybe you should get that tattoo.
Maybe. I don't have a robot tattoo yet, and I love Judas Priest so much.
But you know what's weird? Why do we instinctively hate synth? Because I've always thought, oh, I fucking hate synth. And then like we talked about it on 1984, and I'm realizing like, I don't hate synth, but I have this idea in my head that I hate it.
Because of VH1. VH1 just
VH1.
made a whole big deal. I remember being mad at synth because they told me that Eddie Van Halen wanted to play synth, and that they sucked after that. And so in my whole life has been, oh no.
Can I make an extremely on-brand comparison?
Sure.
I just read a thing about modernist architecture and why people find it off-putting, and I think that it actually it relates a lot to why we find synth off-putting, which is that it kind of, when you really look at it, and you basically what this thing I read was stating was that like we see modernist architecture as almost flying in the face of tradition. Like the way that humanity has done things for thousands of years, like modernist architecture is kind of going against all that. And in the same way synth is, right?
I
like
agree
when you
with
think
that.
about like the guitar, like these instruments, like the piano, like things that like it's like a piano is a hammer hitting a string and it's making a sound, and that's like a very like it ties to our history as people. Whereas like a synth is just like, I don't even know what makes a synth. What makes a synth?
A computer. Yeah.
It's a computer.
People
and
don't
you see
like,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. You see it and you feel this sort of almost like sickness where you're like, well, this isn't people.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think people. Well, I don't know if it's exactly
robots.
that. I don't know if it's exactly that, but I think there is a part of it where people see the synth. People see it and they're like, "Oh no, I don't like this. Is different, and I don't." It represents change that seems like there's no going back.
Yeah,
like if you're using a synth and not a guitar, it's like you're just not that band anymore. You're just not going to be the thing I want you to be.
And the weird thing is that
again.
That's correct in some ways. That it is a change that we can't really go back from. Like the introduction of synth is, in many ways, what led to what music is now. And whether or not you like modern music, it is a change that we can't go back from.
Well, and I don't know, dude, who fuck, like, it's fine. It doesn't, I think people's, like, drastic view of the whole thing, like, going, like, oh, no, this is the death of, like, music. I'm like, no, right now is an integration of like, we're accepting that there is this new thing. This is synth in like computer music now is the same thing that when people heard the electric guitar for the first time, they're like, lipstick inside of a guitar? What are you talking about?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. They're freaking the fuck out.
And fuck.
I don't. It's
I
what's
lost
like
my idea.
No, I get where you're going, because it's kind of like, in a weird way, synth is off-putting because it's both modern and retro at the same time because of the time that we grew up.
Yeah.
So it simultaneously reminds you of someone in the 80s pretending it's the year 2019.
But
So
then
you just
also the
become
year 2019.
really aware of it, whereas a guitar you're so used to, it just exists as good always.
But this album felt like, but because of what's happened in our modern, like because of like the Drive soundtrack and like movies like Scott Pilgrim and all that shit and like everything that's happening, I listened to this album and I was like, oh yeah, immediately I was like, I thought Gay Speed Racer, but I genuinely was like, oh, this reminds me of a movie because synths are in movies now.
Yeah.
That's what happens is John Carpenter is back making music for things because he's a synth guy. Like, it revived his career. Synths are in every movie, like the movie Mandy or whatever. Probably. I mean, I know that Sun's on that album too, but like, you know, it's a whole 80s, like, it reminds me of cinema now. But it's fucking Judas Priest writing a pop album.
Well, one thing that I think is interesting is that these days we are just widely accepting the fact that guitars and synth can coexist in a song. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Like, it didn't have to be like the detrimental end of heavy metal when suddenly there was a synth. Like, Carpenter Brute is like, like, they're without a doubt a glam rock band.
Yeah.
But they're also like a synthwave band.
It rules.
And they just happen to have a guy like slaying glam rock riffs over the top of like two guys with computers on stage. And I think that's just the coolest fucking thing.
It fucking rules. And then also, like, I mean, controversy and everything aside, like Poppy. The fact that, like, Poppy's getting huge, but Poppy is getting huge because of the two songs on her record that are metal.
That have blast beats on
That
them.
have blast beats and, like, metal. Like, she is a weird pop musician that's, like, ironic, but no, it isn't. Fuck, I don't want to get into that right now. But the two things she's now known for is for her weird black metal, baby metal type songs. And they're, like, being played everywhere. She's now the theme song to the next, to like a WrestleMania now.
Hell yeah, good for her.
For her, yeah, good for her. I hope she's getting the money and not her weird boyfriend. Anyway, but no, like, yeah, I think that that's like an example. Like, people are like pops, like the like metal and punk are dead. I'm like, no, they're existing in this thing.
It's okay
right
to
now.
evolve.
It's a music is like symbiotic with stuff. Like, we're all just using all the sounds we can. Whatever you have, like, just add that into your repertoire.
And that's not to say that there aren't other bands still doing the old stuff too. You can find them.
You can absolutely find them.
You can always find them, but it's like a weird it's like a weird thing that people do where they like see an evolution of a thing and they say like, oh, that old thing is dead.
Yeah.
Right? Where like it's like people being sad that like there's not a Holy Roman Empire anymore. You know, and you're like, no, I mean, it's
But Jeremy, you are so sad about that. You miss the aqueducts. Be honest.
they have a consistent slope that is very difficult to attain.
Drew, did you love this album, or what did you think?
I love this album. I really love this album. But I also am kind of newer into all of the later Judas Priest stuff. Like, I kind of really only know the stuff that they played on classic rock radio. Like, I didn't hear Painkiller until this summer. Like, I always liked Judas Priest, but I never listened to anything after like 1983, I guess.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and it's great. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, they're one of the most versatile and adaptable bands. Like, they always find a way to, like, I mean, literally this last year, they're up for a Grammy for Firepower. They're still finding a way to be relevant. Up for a Grammy for Firepower.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well,
damn.
The thing about
That guy,
Painkiller-
they are fucking 70 years old. One of their guitarists can't even play guitar anymore. It happened right after they recorded that album.
Damn, dude, and all the Ramones are dead. That's crazy.
Yeah, they fucking rule. They started before the Ramones and are still alive and up for a Grammy.
Fucking
They've
good for
taken
them,
a
man.
little bit better care of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing about Painkiller that's so cool to me, though, is that because it came after
This.
all the music they inspired, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do what they did." Like to me, that's like if Metallica then wrote Jane Doe. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
It's crazy. If Metallica didn't keep putting out shit, and instead they were like, "All right, we're gonna reinvent metalcore."
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I couldn't believe that it was the same Judas
It was like I was
Priest.
speaking Chinese to Lucy. She has no idea what I just said.
No, I think that was a very apt analogy. No, you're right. I don't know what you're talking about.
We
But
were all
yeah.
just like cracking up for a second because a child upstairs just started screaming, and we all looked at each other like, "What's happening?"
Drew was talking about Painkiller. It was doing his his impression. But yeah, let's. Yeah. All right, so let's do favorite songs, everybody. How about that? Favorite songs on the record.
I think I'm gonna go with the song about parents
Yeah,
and how they
parental
never
guidance.
understand.
Same.
Parental
Yeah.
guidance. Drew.
Oh yeah, parental guidance is punk as fuck. I love it.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna have to go honestly with Turbo Lover because
rules.
after seeing an entire arena full of people singing every single word of that song last year, I love it.
Yeah, it's a cool song. I love. I'm going with Locked In. It was the hair metal song I wish I knew about before today. If I heard that in like late high school when I was just shoving my brain full of like everything from the 80s, I would have freaked the fuck out. Mm-hmm. If the internet didn't tell me not to listen to this album, I would probably love this
Never
album
listen
a
to
lot
the
more.
internet.
Don't. It's bad for you. Don't listen to us. Don't listen to anybody. Anyway, let's do play.
What?
Oh, Jeremy.
Oh,
Favorite
you know, I said parental guidance.
Oh yeah, okay.
For sure, yeah.
Lucy, do you have a metal mansplain?
I do actually.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. Hey, metal fans! It's me, the little lamb girl, Lucy Steiner. And I have a question for y'all. So, what exactly is the difference between David Lee Roth and Stevie Ray Vaughan?
You can tweet your
well, for
answers to
starters-
us.
For starters, one of them I can go see without going to a graveyard. For now,
Also, what's the difference between Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Jennifer Jason Leigh? Because I don't know.
And Jonathan Davis.
And Jonathan
Jonathan
Taylor Davis.
Tweet your answers to us using hashtag MetalMansplain, or you could also, I guess, Instagram comment it with hashtag Metal. I don't know. Fucking use the hashtag MetalMansplain. Send us your answers. We'll probably read them on the air.
Also, weird artists that listen to this, please draw Jonathan Taylor Davis, please. Please, I need that. I need that. I need that in my home.
Also-
I need to hang it up.
You know what? While we're at it, please draw Bernie Broly.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
I know what that
I
is.
know what a
and
Bernie
fucking
Bro
hate
is,
you.
but what the hell is Broly?
Don't do that.
Broly is a Dragon Ball Z thing. Wrong
Okay,
podcast.
nope, we're not.
Jeremy.
Yeah,
No.
don't do that.
No. Okay.
Jonathan
And-
Taylor Davis only.
Yeah.
Do it. Draw it.
I-
And give me
cowards.
Stevie Ray Roth. I want that.
Stevie Ray Roth. Yes, draw that too. All right. Plugs.
Hey, find me on Twitter at Jeremy Thunder and check out my Dragon Ball podcast, Ballin' Out Super.
Don't draw the Broly. And Lucy.
Hello. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Steinbag. And I have some dates coming up, but I don't remember them. Maybe next time.
Hey guys, it's Drew Kaufman. You can find me on Instagram at Drew Kaufman Photography. I'm on Twitter at diet_Hellboy. And you can also check out my new column on Metal Injection, 29 We're looking back at all of the...
Who knew that fucking joke was going to turn into a thing?
I can't believe it. I'm in Paper Magazine. What the fuck?
So good.
They just
So
had
weird.
Amanda Bynes last month.
Yeah. But check it out. We're by we I mean I and only I am talking about 29 Scene, and I am looking back at old albums from the scene and seeing if they still hold up. I just did want to follow Troy. This week is gonna be Every Time I Die. So check that out if you're everybody who's 30 years old.
Cool.
Yay.
Cat.
Yeah.
Plugs.
Yeah.
You can
Whatever
find me
you
on
want.
Twitter at Cat Jones Soda. CATJONES.
Hell yeah.
SODA.
29
And-
Scene. Jones Soda.
Jones Soda. I think they're going to publish my photograph.
And I have an Instagram. It's Cat Jones, but the Jones has 3 O's. The end.
Cool.
And read Kerrang. Check
Read
out
fucking
Kerrang.
Kerrang.
Yeah, follow Kerrang social media. It's KERRANG.
Kat has done some awesome articles.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love your Peter Steele one. That one's great.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
want to date Peter Steele now, and I didn't
Join
before.
the fucking club, man.
Yeah.
You're going to fight me for him.
Yeah, that's
He's
fair.
dead. He already lost.
And yeah, I don't know. Follow the 2 Minutes to Late Night Instagram. You probably already do if you're listening to this podcast. I don't remember my other stuff. Who cares? All right, bye, Turbo Lovers. Bye.
Bye.
Turbo.